and I own a construction company that I built from absolutely nothing. Unless you count a half-busted pickup truck, a rusted toolbox, and the willingness to work until my hands looked like they belonged to a 90-year-old coal miner. 6 years ago, it was just me doing handyman jobs for people who couldn't tell a hammer from a hamster. Now, I've got 23 full-time employees. We handle high-end commercial and residential projects, and last year we landed 3 major contracts. One of them a $2.8 million office complex renovation. After taxes and business expenses, I personally cleared about $1.7 million. Not bad for a guy who grew up in a trailer park where high-end meant the neighbor had an above-ground pool. And before you start picturing me popping champagne on a yacht, relax. I'm not flashy. I still live in the same modest house I bought 3 years ago for $340,000. It's worth around $480,000 now, but I'm not exactly measuring my success in Zillow estimates. I drive a 2019 Ford F-150, which I actually use for work. None of that big truck for small ego nonsense. Most of my money goes right back into the business or into savings, because nothing says sexy like compound interest. I'm the guy who shows up to business meetings in Carhartt pants and work boots because I believe in staying connected to the actual work. Some people think it's a salt-of-the-earth thing. I think it's why I was such an easy target for someone like Gianna. We met at my cousin Toby's barbecue about a year and a half ago. She was one of those women who could make a room full of men forget they were holding conversations mid-sentence. Blonde, fit, glowing like she'd been lit by a Hollywood cinematographer. Later, I found out she had about 47,000 Instagram followers for what I can only describe as being hot in expensive places. At first, she didn't give me the time of day, probably because I wasn't holding a champagne flute or wearing loafers without socks. But the second Toby mentioned I owned the construction company working on his neighbor's house addition, suddenly she was fascinated, leaned right in, eyes wide, asking me about building an empire, like we were filming a documentary for the History Channel. Should have been a red flag the size of a Home Depot parking lot. But I was lonely, and she was gorgeous, so my brain went, shut up, this is fine. We started dating, and within 2 months, she was basically living at my place. Not officially, just the slow, calculated invasion of someone who's watched too many YouTube videos about manifesting abundance. Every week, more of her stuff appeared. Clothes in my closet, her favorite mug in my kitchen, enough beauty products in my bathroom to open a small Sephora. Until one day I realized she was living rent-free in my house. Here's the thing about Gianna. She didn't actually work. Oh sure, she posted on Instagram like it was a full-time job, and every once in a while she'd get paid for sponsored content. On her best months, she might rake in a whopping $1,500, which is adorable in the same way a kid's lemonade stand is adorable. Sure, it's income, but it's not paying for your Soul Cycle classes or your $300 face cream. The rest of her lifestyle? 100% funded by me. Expensive workout classes, designer clothes, professional photo shoots for her content, high-end skincare routines. The whole, I woke up like this package. Except she actually woke up like this because she had a small army of products, treatments, and my debit card making sure of it. At first, I didn't mind. I had the money. She made me feel good about myself, and honestly, she looked incredible at business dinners and industry events. Walking into a room with Gianna on my arm made me feel like a success story. Looking back, though, I was basically paying for a very expensive live-in girlfriend whose only job description was, look pretty, take photos, and make sure no one forgets how pretty you are. The warning signs were everywhere. She never offered to pay for anything. Ever. Not groceries, not utilities, not even gas for my truck. My truck, that she borrowed constantly. And her manners? Let's just say if there was a Yelp for rating human beings, she'd be a solid 1.2 stars. Waiters, cashiers, my employees when they came by the house. She talked to all of them like they were contestants on a reality show she'd already decided should be canceled. Meanwhile, she'd spend 3 hours taking photos in different outfits, but couldn't be bothered to do a load of laundry or run a dishwasher cycle. Her entire social media presence was built on appearing wealthy and successful, but every single thing in those posts was funded by me. She'd upload a photo of an expensive steak dinner I'd just paid for with a caption like, treating myself. Yourself? I remember asking once, were you the one who treated yourself to my Visa bill too? She just rolled her eyes and said, babe, it's just content. Don't take it so seriously. But the absolute worst part? Her business partner, Daniel. This guy was like a human checklist of everything I can't stand. Claimed to be a digital marketing consultant, which is apparently code for, I help rich girls post thirst traps in the most profitable way possible. Drove a leased Mercedes C-Class that probably cost him $800 a month. Money I'm pretty sure he didn't have. lived in a studio apartment he tried to make look bigger with strategic camera angles. And he was constantly posting motivational garbage about building your brand and monetizing your influence. Daniel was the kind of guy who wore designer clothes to coffee shops and took phone calls so loudly you'd think he was brokering peace talks between nations. Always on speaker, of course, because what's the point of being important if the peasants can't overhear you discussing deliverables and brand alignment over a latte? He had about 12,000 Instagram followers. Impressive until you realized half were bots and the other half were desperate wannabe influencers hoping he'd sprinkle some of his magic on their careers. His entire business model could be summed up as find attractive women, convince them they're one photo shoot away from becoming the next big thing, then make them pay you for the privilege. Gianna and Daniel were basically joined at the hip. Every Wednesday, without fail, they had these long strategy sessions to go over her content calendar and brand partnerships, or so the script went. In reality, they spent 4 hours at expensive restaurants while Daniel delivered TED Talks about how she needed professional photo shoots, upgraded equipment, a new wardrobe, and, naturally, his exclusive marketing packages to unlock her true potential. Spoiler alert, all of that somehow required my money. I started noticing that these Wednesday meetings always took place at the most Instagram-friendly spots in town. Daniel would insist, we need to scout locations and maintain brand presence while we're conducting business. Oh sure, because nothing says serious business like $200 lunches, premium cocktails, and a selfie with a neon good vibes only sign in the background. And guess who got to pay for it? That's right, yours truly. I'd see the charges on my card, then see them pop up in their Instagram stories tagged as business development and networking. Every Wednesday, Gianna would spend 2 hours getting ready for her business meeting. Full professional makeup, hair done like she was stepping onto a red carpet, designer outfit, and expensive jewelry, all for a casual lunch with her consultant. Babe, I asked once, don't you think that's a little much for chicken salad and marketing talk? She laughed and said, you never know who we might run into. It's about the image. Right. Because the only thing missing from our business portfolio was a pair of $800 shoes under a patio table at Café Pretentious. Looking back, I should have ended it right there. But she was beautiful, the physical side was incredible, and I didn't want to go back to eating frozen dinners alone. Classic rookie mistake that nearly cost me everything. The last 6 months before everything exploded were basically a masterclass in financial abuse. One I was too blind, or too stupid, to recognize. Every week, there was a new expense, a new must-have investment, a new way for Gianna to remind me that my only real value to her was as a wallet with legs. The Wednesday ritual with Daniel turned into this sacred, untouchable tradition, like church, but with more overpriced cocktails and fewer morals. Gianna would block out the entire afternoon, get dressed like she was heading to Paris Fashion Week, and then spend the day filling her Instagram stories with shots from whatever trendy place they decided was on brand that week. One time I asked, why does a business meeting require you to look like you're going on a date? She gave me that look, like I'd just asked her to explain quantum physics, and snapped. Daniel is helping me build my brand, Michael. This is my career path. You wouldn't understand because you just do construction work. Just construction work. Yeah, the same, just construction work, that paid for her entire lifestyle. Right down to the avocado toast she was probably eating while she said it. The financial drain was becoming a full-blown hemorrhage. My credit card bills were running between $6,000 and $9,000 a month, and almost all of it was on her. We're talking designer workout clothes, expensive beauty treatments, dinners at restaurants that only exist for Instagram photos, and weekend trips for content creation. She'd always frame these as our expenses. Cute, right? Except I was the only one actually contributing anything. Then she started pushing for us to move to a bigger place, something more brand appropriate, as she called it. Wanted me to buy an $850,000 house in the hills so she could have better backgrounds for her photos. When I said that seemed a little excessive, she sulked for weeks, making comments like, I just feel like you're limiting my potential. So, I responded with the best line I could. Why don't you ask your dad to invest? That always shut her up. The entitlement was Olympic level. She even complained that my truck wasn't the right aesthetic for her posts. Michael, a Ford doesn't match my content. I need something aspirational, like a Range Rover. I reminded her that she made maybe $18,000 a year from Instagram, which she promptly spun into, you're being unsupportive of my dreams. Of course, Daniel was always there to play the role of motivational parasite, constantly filling her head with expensive ideas. A $4,500 professional camera setup, because phone cameras limit your potential. A $2,800 lighting rig for studio quality content creation. Weekend trips to Napa and Big Sur for location shooting, $3,000 each, for maybe 3 usable posts. And guess whose account all of that hit? The guy even had this polished little pitch deck he'd whip out, complete with buzzwords like brand ecosystem and market penetration. Every single time I questioned the expenses. Daniel loved to show Gianna examples of other influencers who had made it big after working with him, conveniently skipping over the fact that most of them were bankrolled by wealthy boyfriends or daddy's trust fund. He framed them as self-made visionaries when really they were just prettier versions of her with the same business plan. Look good, post a lot, find someone else to foot the bill. One time at a party, he actually cornered me, drink in hand, wearing a blazer so tight I'm surprised he could breathe, and pitched me his premium influencer acceleration package. Price tag? $35,000. It's an investment, Michael, he said, doing that hands-clasped, slow-nod thing consultants do when they're about to rob you politely. We're talking guaranteed major brand partnerships within 6 months. The package, according to him, included professional photo shoots, video content creation, strategic brand positioning, which I'm 90% sure just means picking a new filter and exclusive access to his network of industry contacts, which I imagine is just a bunch of other Daniels sitting in coffee shops pretending to be busy. When I told him that seemed like a lot of money for something so vague, he gave me this condescending look, like I just asked if Wi-Fi runs on coal, and launched into a speech about how I don't understand the influencer economy, and that I was thinking too small. I stood there holding my beer, wondering how a man in $700 sneakers could sound so much like a pyramid scheme wearing cologne. When I told him no, Gianna acted like I'd just canceled her life dreams. You don't believe in my team, Michael. You're limiting my growth potential. The next 3 days were wall-to-wall cold shoulder, sprinkled with passive-aggressive gems like, other boyfriends are way more supportive of their partner's ambitions, and, I guess not everyone can handle dating a visionary. Meanwhile, the disrespect level was climbing. She'd invite friends over without asking, and then expect me to pay for everyone's dinner. Apparently my house came with an all-inclusive package I didn't know about. She booked expensive spa treatments and slapped them on my card without a word. And cleaning? Forget it. Michael, cleaning ruins my manicure, she'd say, as if wiping down a counter was equivalent to sandblasting her hands. But the real breaking point should have been when she started talking about Daniel like he was some kind of business genius. Daniel says you're not investing enough in growth opportunities, she'd tell me, like she was passing down wisdom from a mountaintop. Daniel thinks you should be more strategic about building wealth. Right. Daniel, who lived in a glorified walk-in closet and drove a Mercedes he could barely make payments on, was apparently more financially sophisticated than the guy who'd built a multi-million-dollar construction company from scratch. The final warning shot came the Tuesday before everything went to pieces. She spent 4 hours getting ready for her Wednesday meeting with Daniel, trying on outfit after outfit, doing full professional makeup like she was prepping for a Vogue cover shoot. I said, "You never put this much effort into our date nights anymore." She didn't even blink. That's different. Daniel has high standards for the people he works with professionally. The people he works with professionally. Not clients, people. Like they were co-founders of the next Fortune 500 company instead of 2 adults plotting the optimal lighting for an Instagram flat lay. I should have confronted her right then. Should have asked what exactly was going on during these long business meetings. But no, I didn't want to be controlling. Didn't want to rock the boat. So I swallowed my pride, went to bed angry, and told myself it was nothing. That was my last night as a naive fool. Wednesday was going to change everything. The morning started like any other. Gianna spent her standard 2 hours getting camera ready for her business meeting with Daniel, while I sat at the kitchen table reviewing project plans for a new house renovation we were about to start. When she finally came downstairs, she looked like she was about to step onto a red carpet. Flawless makeup, a designer dress that probably cost more than my guys make in a week, and heels that looked like they'd been stolen from a museum exhibit called Dangerous Footwear for the Rich. "See you tonight, babe," she said, barely glancing at me while adjusting her hair in the hallway mirror. "Daniel's taking me to that new place in the hills. We might run late because we're discussing some major partnership opportunities." I was mid-conference call with a client, so I just nodded. Didn't even get a goodbye kiss. Should have been another red flag, but I was too focused on work to notice the train coming straight at me. Around noon, I wrapped up my calls and decided to drive out to check on our current job site. We were doing a major renovation on a house about 30 minutes outside the city, and I wanted to see how the electrical work was progressing. The route up into the hills is one I could do with my eyes closed. Though, in hindsight, maybe not the best day for that skill set. Winding roads, perfect weather, sun shining like a car commercial. I wasn't in any rush, just cruising in my F-150 at about 35 on the curves, enjoying the drive. Everything was normal, until it wasn't. I came around this bend I've taken hundreds of times before, and suddenly, bam, there's a massive oak tree lying across the road like it had decided to take a nap right there. No cones, no flares, not even a bored highway worker waving his arms. Just me, my truck, and Mother Nature playing, guess how good your brakes are. I slammed the brakes hard, but physics had other plans. At about 25 miles per hour, I plowed straight into that trunk, and the front end of my truck folded like an origami swan in a hurricane. Steam erupted from the radiator like Old Faithful, and the airbag exploded in my face so hard it felt like Tyson Fury had been hiding in my dashboard just waiting for his moment. Then came the pop. My left shoulder. I actually heard it over the screech of metal and the hiss of boiling coolant. That's never a good sound. The windshield spiderwebbed into 1,000 cracks, but somehow didn't shatter. For a few seconds, I just sat there, stunned, tasting blood from where I'd bitten my tongue, trying to process what had just happened. My shoulder felt like someone had poured molten lava into the joint, the pain shooting all the way down to my fingertips. I couldn't move my left arm at all. It just dangled there like a dead fish. Meanwhile, my head was pounding with what felt like the worst hangover in history, and my vision had these weird blurry edges, like I was looking through a cheap Instagram filter. I tried to open the driver's door, but it was jammed tight, twisted from the impact so badly that the metal had buckled inward, pinning my left leg against the seat. I could move it, which was the good news. The bad news? I definitely wasn't getting out without help. That's when it hit me, literally and figuratively, that I was trapped in a mangled truck on a remote road, with what felt like serious injuries. My phone had gone flying somewhere during the crash, probably under the passenger seat, maybe out the window, for all I knew, and with one arm hanging useless at my side, I couldn't even try to reach for it. So I just sat there, pinned in place, waiting. It took almost 45 minutes before another car came around the bend, which feels like 3 years when you're wondering if the smoke you smell is your radiator or you. Thank God it was Tony, one of my subcontractors, a plumber who was supposed to be heading to the same job site. He jumped out of his van, eyes wide. "Boss? Holy crap, you okay?" "Define okay," I grunted. "If okay means trapped in my own truck and possibly missing a shoulder, then sure, I'm fantastic." Tony whipped out his phone, called 911, then stayed with me until help arrived. He kept trying to make me laugh, which, with 2 cracked ribs I didn't know about yet, was not a great idea. Getting pulled out of that truck was straight up nightmare fuel. The fire department had to bring out the big tools, the ones that sound like they could dismantle a tank, because the front end had folded itself around my legs like a metal pretzel. By the time they slid me onto a stretcher, I was fading in and out of consciousness from the pain. My vision kept tunneling, and my brain was busy trying to decide whether to pass out or throw up. In the ambulance, the paramedic, older guy, clearly seen it all, kept firing off questions to keep me alert. "What's your name?" "Michael." "What day is it?" "Wednesday, I think." "Who can we call for you?" "My girlfriend, Gianna," I said through gritted teeth, giving him her number. "She's my emergency contact." He called right there in the back of the ambulance. No answer. Tried again. Still nothing. We got to the hospital, and they wasted no time. CT scans, x-rays, pain meds that made the ceiling look like it was breathing. Turns out, I'd won the injury trifecta. Severe concussion, 2 cracked ribs, and a left shoulder so wrecked the orthopedic surgeon basically gave me a laundry list, torn rotator cuff, separated joint, and enough muscle damage to guarantee I'd be in physical therapy long enough to make friends with everyone there. After about 3 hours of this medical merry-go-round, a nurse came in looking like she'd just gotten off a frustrating phone call with a customer service rep in another galaxy. "We've been trying to reach your emergency contact for over 3 hours now," she said. "No response at all. Is there someone else we should try calling?" 3 hours. No response. While I was unconscious, and the doctors weren't even sure if my insides were bleeding out, I knew exactly where she was and what she was doing. Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. business meeting with Daniel at some overpriced restaurant. Probably taking selfies with expensive food that I was indirectly funding. With my good hand, the one that still functioned like it belonged to me, I managed to fumble out a text. "Been in serious car accident. At General Hospital ER. Need surgery on shoulder. Concussion. Trapped in truck for almost an hour. Car is totaled. Can you please come?" 12 minutes later, plenty of time, apparently, to finish her truffle fries, she replied. "OMG babe, that sounds really scary, but I'm actually in the middle of a super important business presentation with Daniel right now, and we're about to finalize this huge partnership deal. Can you get a rideshare? I'll try to stop by later if we finish early. Love you." A rideshare. From the hospital. After major surgery. With a destroyed shoulder and a concussion. "Oh sure, Gianna. Let me just hop into an Uber with my arm in a sling, for in the other, and my brain doing the Macarena. Driver might even appreciate the ambulance chaser aesthetic. That was the exact moment the fog lifted. My survival mode brain clicked into perfect, crystal clear focus. She wasn't just choosing lunch over my emergency. She was choosing her fake Instagram lifestyle and whatever game she was playing with Daniel over the fact that I could have died. I screenshotted her message, because receipts are forever, and then I called Ron. Ron Jeremy. Not that Ron Jeremy. Mine wears Italian loafers, not ankle monitors. We'd worked together for years on property deals and contracts, and if anyone could help me fix this mess, it was him. He picked up on the first ring. Michael, what's going on? You sound terrible. I'm in the hospital after a bad accident, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady even though my shoulder felt like it was auditioning for a horror movie. And I need you to listen carefully, because what I'm about to ask might sound extreme. Extreme how? He asked, his tone shifting into that cautious, are we burying a body register? I laid it all out. The crash, Gianna's Oscar-worthy display of indifference, her can you get a ride share? Masterpiece of a text, and the last year and a half of what can only be described as financial abuse and disrespect. He was quiet for a long moment after I finished talking. I could hear the faint sound of him breathing, probably trying to decide if I'd finally lost my mind, or if this was just another Tuesday in my life. That's absolutely unbelievable, Michael, Ron finally said. I mean, I never trusted her, but that's sociopathic behavior. Yeah, I said, and that's me being polite about it. What do you need me to do? 3 things, I said, counting them out like I was giving him a grocery list. First, document everything. Screenshot her texts, get copies of my medical records, photos of the accident scene. Basically, if it could one day be read dramatically in a courtroom, I want it. Done. Second, I continued, start the legal process of removing her from my property. There was a beat. You mean your house? No, Ron, I said flatly. I mean my collection of potted plants. Yes, my house. The one I pay for. The one she treats like a hotel with a spa and free catering. Got it, he said. And third, I paused. Not for dramatic effect. Okay, fine, maybe a little for dramatic effect, but mostly because I wanted to be absolutely sure I was ready to cross this particular line. Then I remembered her message. Can you get a rideshare? Like she was inconvenienced by my existence. Third, I said, I want you to call the restaurant where she's having her meeting and deliver a message. A message? The kind that makes it very clear to everyone there exactly what kind of person she really is. Ron chuckled. Michael, I'm going to need you to define message. Because I've got the diplomatic kind, the subtle kind, and the nuclear option. Let's just say, I replied, I want something memorable. The sort of thing that makes people pause mid-bite and question all their life choices. He laughed. Got it. Which restaurant? Hillside Bistro, I said. She's there with some marketing consultant named Daniel. Probably at a window table, so she can take Instagram photos of her latte from a 45-degree angle. I'll handle it personally, Ron said. What else do you need? Start pulling all my financial records from the past 18 months. Bank statements, credit card bills, the works. I want exact numbers on how much of my money she's burned through. Planning to pursue restitution. Translation. Planning to make her regret ever discovering online shopping? Exactly. Planning to teach her a very expensive lesson. After I hung up with him, I called my accountant. Same conversation, same request for documentation. The man sighed so loudly I thought my phone speaker might short out. Then I rang my business partner, who muttered something about how this is why I date women who think a financial statement is a receipt from Target. Finally, I called a friend who owns a marketing agency. I need you to dig into Daniel's business, I told him, and Gianna's actual income from Instagram. Assuming it's more than the $2 rebate she got from posting that tea detox ad. Within 2 hours, my team was in full motion. Ron had spoken directly with the restaurant manager and arranged for a very public notification. And by public, I mean the kind of public where strangers start live tweeting your humiliation before dessert. Here's exactly how it went down, straight from the manager's account, because Ron, bless his cold, strategic little heart, stayed on the phone with him the entire time. The manager approached their table, prime location by the window, as predicted. Gianna and Daniel were clearly having an excellent time. Expensive food, fancy drinks, taking pictures of each other like they were auditioning for a dating app commercial, posting constantly to social media, because of course they were. Excuse me, are you Gianna Smith? The manager asked politely. Yes, she said, all smiles. Is there a problem? Oh, I have an urgent message from the legal office of Michael Peterson, he said in a calm, professional tone, the kind of voice you'd use to announce that someone's yacht had just exploded. Mr. Peterson has been in a severe automobile accident and is currently in emergency surgery at General Hospital. His vehicle was completely destroyed, and he has sustained serious injuries, including head trauma. Now, I'd just like to pause here and point out, I was absolutely fine. Sitting at home, drinking coffee, listening to Ron narrate this like it was a pay-per-view event. You're listed as his primary emergency contact, the manager continued, but the hospital has been unable to reach you for over 4 hours. According to Ron, Daniel went completely pale, like he'd just realized the bill wasn't being split. The surrounding tables stopped mid-bite. Forks were hovering in midair. The hospital needs immediate family notification for surgical consent and insurance authorization. The manager went on, like he was reading it off the world's most awkward teleprompter. Gianna's face. Oh, Ron said it was art. Confusion, panic, embarrassment, and then anger, like she was mad at the accident for interrupting her appetizer. All in about 10 seconds. The manager wrapped it up with, Mr. Peterson's legal team wanted to ensure you received this notification since your phone appears to be non-responsive. They also asked me to inform you that all relevant parties have been contacted regarding the situation. Translation, your partner nearly died. You've been unreachable for hours while having lunch with another man. Everyone in this restaurant now knows it, and his legal team is already involved. Then he walked away, leaving Gianna and Daniel marinating in the silence, while everyone stared and whispered. The woman who'd been too busy with her very important business meeting to answer emergency calls about her boyfriend's accident. But hey, priorities, right? This was just the opening move. While Gianna was busy marinating in public humiliation at Hillside Bistro, my team was already deep into phase 2. Ron had 3 assistants compiling documentation like they were prepping for a Supreme Court trial. My accountant was buried under 18 months of bank statements, and my marketing buddy was digging into Daniel's business like he was auditioning for CSI, Influencer Edition. Meanwhile, I was unconscious on an operating table for 5 solid hours while a surgical team basically rebuilt my shoulder from scratch. Torn rotator cuff, separated joint, shredded muscle, the works. If there'd been a punch card for surgeries, I'd have gotten a free coffee. When I finally came to, I was groggy, sore, and staring at the fluorescent-lit ceiling of recovery when I heard, "Thank goodness you're okay." I turned my head. Well, as much as the neck brace would allow. And there was my sister, Claire. Family law attorney. Divorce and asset protection specialist. Professional human lie detector. She'd never liked Gianna, but had been diplomatic. For my sake. That diplomacy was now officially in hospice care. "Where is she?" I croaked. Claire smirked. "Haven't seen her. But your lawyer said the restaurant notification went perfectly." Apparently, it created quite a scene. "Oh, I bet it did," I muttered, picturing Daniel's face when the manager dropped the news like a live grenade. Over the next several hours, Claire started reading me Gianna's incoming messages, documenting them like she was building an exhibit for trial. 3:15 p.m. Michael, I got the message at the restaurant. "I'm so sorry. My phone was on silent during the meeting. I'm coming to the hospital right now." "Sure," because 4 hours of total silence just screams urgent concern. 3:45 p.m. Your lawyer said you're stable, but why is legal counsel involved in a car accident? This is really confusing. I grinned. "Yeah, I'm sure it is, sweetheart." For 12 p.m. I've been here for an hour, and they still won't let me see you. What's going on? Maybe they have a policy against letting visitors in who are allergic to empathy, I said. Claire nearly choked laughing. Then, around 5:07 p.m., after she'd probably talked to someone who witnessed the Hillside Bistro fiasco. "Daniel left right after your guy made that announcement, and now he won't answer my calls." "Poor Daniel," I said. "Guess the marketing meeting went south." And finally, 5:18 p.m., this is completely unfair. I was working on my career. You could have just texted me directly. Claire raised an eyebrow. From fake concern to anger in 1 hour and 48 minutes. Impressive. But the real jaw-dropper came when my accountant walked in with a stack of papers. "Michael," he said, "I've finished analyzing your financial records from the past 18 months. And then he dropped it. $143,000. Credit cards, cash advances, her car lease payment, insurance, medical bills, travel, shopping, dining, every last penny. $143,000. For someone who had contributed maybe $25,000 total to our relationship. My marketing friend's research was even better than I'd hoped. Apparently, Daniel's digital marketing consultancy wasn't some sleek, high-tech agency. No, it was him coaching Instagram. Models on how to optimize their content for maximum male thirst. His client list? Almost entirely made up of very photogenic women whose careers were funded by wealthy boyfriends. And here's the kicker. He took a 30% cut of any sponsorship deals he helped arrange. A real altruist. Gianna, my ever-entrepreneurial girlfriend, had told me she was pulling in about $1,500 a month in sponsorships. Reality check, it was closer to $600. And most of the brands she posted about, they weren't paying her a dime. She was just buying products with my credit card to make fake sponsorship content. Basically, I was her unpaid brand investor. The most revealing moment came when Daniel got hit with the truth bomb. According to witnesses, as soon as the restaurant announcement dropped, he bolted like someone had just told him the IRS was in the lobby. Apparently, he'd assumed Gianna was this fiercely independent influencer rolling in cash. The moment he realized she was 100% financially tethered to some guy currently lying in a hospital bed. Me. He suddenly had urgent business elsewhere. So there it was, in one afternoon, Gianna had lost both her boyfriend and her business partner. Meanwhile, I was just getting started. I spent 5 days in the hospital, during which Gianna made 4 attempts to visit. I'd left very clear instructions with the nurses that she was not to be allowed in my room under any circumstances. She might as well have been on a no-fly list. Each time, hospital security had to escort her out. And each time, she left behind flowers, cards, and notes that got progressively more desperate. It was like watching the slow decline of a Hallmark Channel character arc, except I wasn't buying popcorn for this one. While I was recovering, Ron and I set Project Clean House into motion. Step 1. Legally remove her from my property in the most unambiguous way possible. Since her name wasn't on the lease, the deed, or any other legal document, she had 0 rights to be there. Ron, being the efficient executioner of my bad relationship decisions, had a process server deliver the notice. She had 48 hours to get her stuff out, or it would be considered abandoned property. The process server showed up at 6:30 a.m. on a Friday. When she answered the door, she was still in pajamas. According to the server, she completely lost it. Like, Oscar-worthy meltdown level. And then, my phone starts blowing up. Calls, texts, voicemails. Claire, bless her nosy little heart, was documenting every single one. Michael, please call me back. Delete. I know you're upset, but this is insane. Insane? Oh, sweetheart, you haven't even seen Act 2. You can't just kick me out. We've been together for over a year. All my stuff is here. My clothes, my equipment, my entire life. I don't have anywhere else to go. I can't afford my own place right now. That last part? Yeah, that was the gem. 18 months of living rent-free while I funded her champagne and luxury candle lifestyle, and she'd never saved a dime. Never bothered with a little thing called independence. Classic gold digger rookie mistake. Never have a backup plan, because why would you when you've got a walking ATM with feelings? But see, the eviction was just part 1. Ron, my personal legal sledgehammer, was already teeing up part 2, the financial accountability phase. That's lawyer speak for you bled me dry. Now I want my money back. He filed papers in civil court for restitution due to unjust enrichment and financial fraud, which is a polite legal way of saying, you took a bunch of my money and gave absolutely nothing of equal value in return. Every expense was documented down to the last overpriced latte. And the best part? Civil filings are public record. Anyone with an internet connection could look up the exact dollar amount she drained from me and see the receipts, literally. Meanwhile, my marketing buddy was working a quieter but equally lethal angle. He reached out to the handful of brands still paying Gianna for posts and gently expressed concerns about her authenticity. Translation, she's been selling you this glamorous, self-made image while actually living off some guy's credit card. And here's the kicker. Social media platforms have strict rules about disclosure. If you're flaunting a lifestyle that's actually funded by someone else, and you don't say so, you're breaking the terms of service. Guess who had never once disclosed that her entire empire was propped up by yours truly? For brands bailed on her faster than you can say influencer discount code. And just like that, the follower count began its slow, satisfying nosedive as word got out that her lifestyle was, in fact, fake. The algorithm had apparently decided Gianna's 15 minutes were up. Engagement was tanking faster than my hospital 4 bag when the nurse forgot to close the clamp, and her posts were getting buried like last season's trends. Her entire fake empire was crumbling in real time. Daniel, ever the loyal business partner, had ghosted her completely. Later, I learned from a friend that he'd been planning to pitch Gianna on some $40,000 premium branding package that would magically land her major sponsorship deals. Translation, he was going to take her money and run, probably straight into the next gullible Instagrammer's DMs. When he figured out she didn't actually have money, and that her personal ATM was now lying in a hospital bed, he moved on faster than a dating app swipe. Everything she'd built, her lifestyle, her business relationships, her influence, turned out to be as real as a spray tan in a rainstorm. And all of it, bankrolled by someone else's wallet. Mine. I got discharged the following Tuesday. Claire drove me home, and as we pulled into the driveway, there it was, Gianna's car. She was out front, shoving the last of her stuff into boxes. And there she was. Not the airbrushed, brand collaborating goddess from my feed. No, this was the post-apocalypse edition of Gianna. No makeup, messy hair, wearing sweatpants that probably hadn't been washed since the last self-care Sunday story. For someone who'd made her entire personality about looking flawless, she looked like she'd been body doubled by a college freshman during finals week. Then she spotted me. "Michael," she called, jogging over. "Thank goodness you're okay. I was so worried about you." I just stared at her. Not angry, not sad. Just like you'd look at a total stranger who'd just borrowed your lawnmower without asking. Because that's exactly what she was, except instead of a lawnmower, she'd borrowed my entire life savings. "You were worried?" I said, keeping my voice calm. "So worried you couldn't leave your business meeting to come to the hospital?" "That's not what happened," she said quickly, eyes darting anywhere but mine. I explained everything. Daniel had this huge opportunity, and my phone was on silent. I cut her off. Right? Because nothing says true love like ignoring your boyfriend's near-death experience in favor of a networking brunch with a man who dresses like an off-brand magician. She winced, but didn't argue. "And where's Daniel now, Gianna?" I asked. Silence. Just her shifting her weight and staring at the driveway like it had the answers. We both knew the truth. Daniel had vanished the second things got complicated. "Look, I know you're mad," she said, desperation creeping into her voice like a bad perfume. "But we can work through this. I made a mistake, okay? I should have come to the hospital immediately, but this lawsuit thing and kicking me out is completely over the top." "Over the top?" I almost smiled. I mean, I'm sitting there with hospital wristbands still on my nightstand, and she's worried about over the top. "Over the top," I said, "is spending $143,000 of someone else's money while contributing nothing in return." Her face went white, like ghost white, like she'd just seen a math problem she didn't know how to solve. "You've been keeping track?" she stammered. "Oh yes," I said, leaning in. "Spreadsheets. Color-coded. Pie charts. You're your own little tab in my personal accounting system." "That's not fair," she shot back. "We were in a relationship. Couples share expenses." "Sharing," I said, "implies both people contribute. You were just taking. It's like calling shoplifting a group activity." That's when the crying started, full soap opera mode. Tears streaming, shoulders shaking, dramatic collapse onto my driveway like she was auditioning for The Bachelor, Foreclosure Edition. "Please, Michael, I'm sorry. I know I messed up, but I love you. I don't have anywhere to go. I can't afford rent on my own." "You mean," I said, "you can't afford rent without my money? Let's be precise here." "Please, I'll pay you back," she sniffled. "I'll get a real job. I'll do anything. Just don't destroy my life over this." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't about love. This wasn't even about me. This was about her credit card getting declined at brunch next week. She was panicking because her lifestyle was about to vanish like an Instagram filter in real life. "You'll do anything?" I asked. She nodded frantically, mascara streaking down her cheeks like war paint. "Okay," I said, "here's what I want. First, I want you to publicly admit you've been using me financially for the past 18 months. Second, I want you to tell all your followers that your entire Instagram lifestyle was fake, funded by someone else. Third, I want you to take full responsibility for choosing your fake business meeting over my actual medical emergency. And fourth, I want you to get a real job and start paying back the $143,000 you owe me." She stared at me like I'd just asked her to set herself on fire. "I can't do that," she said, shaking her head like I'd suggested she join a monastery. "That would ruin everything. My Instagram, my reputation, my whole brand." "Your brand," I said, "was always fake. I was just the one paying for the illusion. Michael, please be reasonable. We can work something else out." She suddenly shifted into bargaining mode. "Maybe I could move back in and we could go back to how things were. But I'll be more appreciative. I'll cook more. I'll clean more. She leaned in with that tone. "I'll be better in other ways, too." I stared at her. She was literally offering a relationship deluxe package, now with added housework and sex, to keep the gravy train running. "No, Michael, please. You don't understand what you're doing to me. Without you, I have nothing. No money, no apartment, no way to maintain my lifestyle. I'll lose everything I've built." "Good," I said flatly. "You should lose it all, because you didn't build any of it. I can't believe you're being this heartless. I made one mistake. One mistake. Gianna," I said, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. "You've been using me for 18 months. You've treated me like an ATM, disrespected me constantly, carried on some sort of networking with Daniel while I paid for your entire life. And when I nearly died, you chose your fake lunch meeting over helping me. That's not one mistake. That's who you are." The tears stopped instantly. Like flipping a switch. Her expression hardened, and for the first time in months, I saw the real person underneath the pastel filters and curated captions. Fine, she said, voice low and cold. You want to play hardball? I'll tell everyone you're a controlling abuser who tried to isolate me from my career opportunities. I'll ruin your reputation just like you're trying to ruin mine. There it was, the real Gianna. Not the smiling influencer, not the apologetic girlfriend, but the manipulative opportunist who'd burn the house down if she couldn't live in it anymore. Go ahead, I said. Tell people whatever you want. The court records showing exactly how much money you took from me will speak for themselves. She finished loading her car in silence, slamming the trunk with just enough force to make a point. Before driving away, she rolled down her window for one last shot. Michael, what we had was real. I know I made mistakes, but I did love you. That part wasn't fake. I looked at her, sitting in the car I'd been making payments on, wearing clothes I'd bought, about to drive off to whatever friend's couch she could crash on because she'd never bothered to build an actual independent life. No, Gianna, I said, calm as a saint but with the precision of a scalpel. You loved my money. You just tolerated me to access it. Her face did that twitchy thing people do when they're deciding between fake indignation and admitting you're right. She went with the classic, rolling her eyes, huffing, and muttering something about how I never understood her. Right, I said. I never understood that my credit card was your soulmate. She stomped toward her car like she was auditioning for Fast and Furious. The broke chapter, slammed the door, and peeled out of my driveway. That was the last time I saw her in person. 8 months later, the lawsuit wrapped up. Ron, my lawyer, therapist, and part-time comedian, called me. Michael, he said, good news. We won. The court's ordering her to pay $143,000. That's the full amount plus interest and all legal fees. I nearly dropped my coffee. 143 grand? I figured we'd get maybe a gift card to Chili's and a better luck next time. Ron chuckled. Nope. We nailed it. The texts and emails where she called it a loan and promised to pay you back? Gold. The bank statements showing she spent it on designer clothes instead of her so-called business? Even better. The judge didn't just believe us. He looked personally offended. Turns out, Gianna didn't have that kind of money lying around, so she called mommy and daddy. They took out a loan to bail her out. And just like that, she's back living at home, off social media entirely. From self-proclaimed business mogul to small-town recluse in under a year. I'd feel bad, but then I remember my Amex bill from the Gianna era, and all sympathy evaporates. As for Daniel, oh, he didn't even slow down. This time locking onto the girlfriend of a local drug lord, convinced he could make her famous with his trademark cocktail of empty promises and overblown confidence. He painted her a future dripping with fame, lucrative sponsorships, and a thriving personal brand empire. The problem? Daniel had no idea who her boyfriend was. Or worse, he knew and thought he could charm his way past it. In his mind, it was just another hustle. In reality, it was stepping barefoot into a minefield. A month later, the empire was still a fantasy. The girlfriend had nothing to show for her time, and the drug lord was starting to view Daniel less as an entrepreneur and more as an insult. Their final meeting wasn't in an office. It was down by the docks, late at night. The kind of meeting where the only paperwork is a rope and the only contract is unspoken. Word is, Daniel didn't walk away from that one. The river did. And now he's keeping the fish company. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.